So way back in 2019, back in July, IBM completed its acquisition of Red Hat for $34 billion. And Jim Whitehurst said at the time, joining forces with IBM gives Red Hat the opportunity to bring more open source innovation to an even broader range of organizations and will enable us to scale to meet the need for hybrid cloud solutions that deliver true choice and agility. Then in late 2020, December, CentOS Stream was announced as the successor to CentOS Linux, and CentOS Linux 8 was to be unsupported within about a year. And you can hear the history of CentOS and leading up to it back in Season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Chris Wright, the CTO of Red Hat, said, CentOS Linux has truly helped to make RHEL and the supporting communities better. And with CentOS Stream, we intend to continue this drive to make Linux innovation faster and more collaborative. In an FAQ linked in the CentOS announcement about Stream by Rich Bowen, it's noted that the source code for Red Hat Enterprise Linux will continue to be published on git.centos.org. Nothing will change about how the source code is published. This change is only related to the binaries the CentOS project is building and how they are published. In 2021, January, Red Hat announces more free RHEL. Took a little while, but you can get up to 16 systems running RHEL. And in February, Brian Exelbierd noted on the Red Hat developer site that in reference to CentOS sources on the CentOS GitHub, we are not making any changes to this process. In March, Alma Linux 8.3 was released, and in June, Rocky Linux followed with 8.4. And 2022 was pretty quiet. Alma was doing their thing, Rocky was doing their thing, and CentOS Stream was in full swing. And it seemed like things were back to normal. Red Hat was posting 15% revenue increases every quarter of the year. And IBM, despite its projected 3,900-person layoff, was growing at similar rates. But in 2023, there was a Red Hat announcement on April 24th, and it was a shock to everyone, including Red Hat and Fedora employees. Ben Cotton let us know that he was one of the many who were laid off, along with 4% of the workforce. It was about 800 employees. In late June, Red Hat announced that CentOS sources, and this is the bombshell, will no longer be on GitHub. And Brian Exelbierd's post from February 2021 changed from "we are not making any changes" to "sources remain publicly available, but as of June 2023, the publication process has changed." 5 days later, McGrath writes a clarification post on what that means to CentOS and everybody else moving forward. And 3 days later, Rocky Linux announces that they'll be using the universal base images available through AWS and other cloud providers to access source RPMs to continue their cloning. And on July 13th, just a few days before we recorded this, Alma announces that because of these changes, they will no longer aim to be bug-for-bug compatible with RHEL. So, a lot has happened. The bombshell, which was sources will no longer be on GitHub, which is what spurred Rocky Linux on to saying that they're going to just, grab the SRPMs from the universal base images, and that led Alma to say we just can't be bug-for-bug compatible. That change just meant that they're not chucking the sources out publicly anymore.
Right.
Red Hat.
Right.
And that means that you can't just make a clone the same way that...
At least not the same way. Nope. Yep.
Right. And I think the general recommendation was, well, if you want to make a clone, you go to the CentOS Stream GitHub and you can pull that, and you'll just have to kind of figure it out.
Eventually, it all ends up in CentOS, and obviously ends up in RHEL. It's more about timing, and
right,
and that's kind of important if you want to be exact clones.
So it's hard to differentiate what's what.
Right.
So Rocky decided that they were going to say, all right, well, there are Red Hats out there that you don't need a subscription for, because the whole thing is that the sources are still there. You can get it through the Red Hat subscriber agreement.
Right.
Like, you can get access to the sources, but the agreement says if you distribute those, we're gonna get rid of you.
Yeah, we'll cut off your subscription. Yeah.
So you can't do it that way anymore. So Rocky's kind of found an end run around by grabbing these universal base images and pulling what they need from that. So they claim that they're still going to have a bug-for-bug, one-to-one copy of RHEL. And one thing that was not in the bit of history, because it hasn't really fleshed out yet, is SUSE. Or SUSE.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll say there's a couple of Me Too posts that we haven't really talked about, right? Mm-hmm. So SUSE is one of them, and so they put in their oar into the water, and they had this other thing that they had going, and they kind of gave up on, and now they've started, I guess, again, and that's called Liberty Linux. Which was kind of a clone before, or they were going to make a RHEL clone before, and then gave up, and now they say they're going to come up with a way to do that themselves. Although I don't know that they've specified necessarily the way they're going to do it. Although there was some talk that they were going to work with the Rocky folks and come up with a mechanism to share some of that.
So SUSE is now in Rocky Linux's corner, and they bring along with them $10 million to make sure that this cloning project continues the way that it always has. And that was the promise that Rocky made to all of its customers.
Mm-hmm. And so here's the other interesting thing with SUSE is, so they have a reason for this. They have this management thing that they're trying to market, the SUSE Linux manager, or whatever I forget the term exactly, but it is supposed to be somewhat of a bridge, if you will, to help you manage all of your enterprise Linux things, including SUSE, and in addition to Red Hat stuff. So they've had that for a while, but now this is the reasoning why they want to push this forward. Is because it helps benefit their bottom line with being able to market the SUSE manager.
So everybody making business moves is really what this kind of boils down to, right? Mm-hmm. And so Alma's not going to be bug for bug, which means that they're presumably going to go their own way, but it would be kind of cool. I don't know that they would, but it would be kind of cool if they ended up in the same pot as Rocky and SUSE and SUSE. And, well, I hesitate to say Oracle.
Well, they're in the mix too. They've also issued their Me Too post. And they're gonna, they said, if, Red Hat, if you're not going to have CentOS, like, come on over to Oracle. Like, we'll take you.
Right.
And like, if Red Hat, if you don't want to pay your developers, that's okay. We'll take them too. So they're going to throw in the 500-pound gorilla and just kind of smash at it.
And I think what's really funny about this is that if you're new to the community, if you're new to Linux, if you're new to the enterprise Linux stuff, you wouldn't really know where Oracle's been and who they are and what they've done.
The history is important.
So if you're coming in without that context, man, Oracle's looking really good right now.
Their statement
they're saying the right things.
Yeah, their statement was off the charts good.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, just how much can you trust it?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, but they did say the right stuff. I mean, it sounds like Oracle definitely has a good PR team, whereas
their timing was good.
Red Hat does not.
Nope.
I don't know of a single controversial move that Red Hat has made that hasn't just been insanely tone deaf.
Yeah.
In its delivery. Yeah, I guess it just costs less to just make the moves and piss people off than paying a PR person to write this for them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I just can't think of a single controversial one. The one stuff that would make the community mad, nothing that I can remember has come off particularly good. And it's not like this is new.
No.
This happened back in Red Hat Linux before they attached the enterprise part.
Exactly. That's how Fedora Core happened, essentially.
Right.
They figured they're like, we don't want to deal with that, so we're just going to throw that over here. And then so that's how that began. And then that's when Red Hat Enterprise Linux started.
I get it. I mean, you have to make money moves. I understand. But man, it'd be really cool if you didn't just say stuff and not see the way that it was going to be taken.
So here's where I like Alma Linux too, because, so Red Hat drops the bomb, and it's like everybody, I don't blame any of the clones for being clones, because, hey, it's there. It's available. Smart move. Take what you got, right? Take what's available to you. Now it's not. And so Alma says, all right, well, we're going to roll up the sleeves and we're going to get to work. We're going to do the thing. We're going to do the thing
right
the way we got to do it. And rather than try to find a way around and then run around and get those sources, yet another way. What happens when that dries up? I mean, you don't have a plan B really very well, I don't think.
Yeah.
So
and
Alma's doing the work. They're like,
no, you do have a plan B. It's to risk your subscriber agreement.
Maybe
that's plan B. I think.
I don't know. Yeah.
What are they gonna do? Take away my free 16 subscription thing to free RHEL?
Yeah. Well, that's where you get your nom de plume and you sign yourself up as someone else, and away you go. I guess. Yeah. I don't know. Like, you're going to run out of that. That's only going to work so long, and it doesn't seem like a viable solution to me.
Right. Well, not for a distribution that claims enterprise
exactly
support. I mean, this is the corner that Rocky is painting itself into, and that is a tough corner to be in, because you are expected to keep that server up to date and running for 10 plus years. So it's tough when you don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months to say, yep, we will support this now and forever.
Right.
It's just a hard position to be put in.
As someone that would want an enterprise Linux in my environment, it's not the one I would choose. I would either go Alma if I wanted that, set release cadence, or I would go CentOS Stream if I could manage to just deal with streaming updates. I'm not going to say rolling because it's not rolling, but
they said it was rolling.
They kind of retracted that eventually.
But they said it.
But so like so streaming. Stream is a good term. You keep those coming to me on a consistent basis without necessarily the release cycle cadence. I guess I'd go with either of those. In the end, it's probably going to work fine. And if you ultimately came down to needing the support, you're going to pick RHEL.
Or you move to something else.
Yeah, you pitch it all and you go to Ubuntu or, something like that, right?
So you might move to Ubuntu, but they have the same interest that IBM Red Hat have, which is the bottom line.
They do.
They will make moves the same way that IBM Red Hat is doing. The same, they will do the same stuff. In general, I'm not saying that they'll release 2024-04 and say, hey, guess what? No, you can't just make flavors anymore.
Right.
You can't have downstream anymore because it's cut into our bottom line. So we want that whatever 10% revenue we were losing, we're going to claw that back.
Mind blown here now, right? I mean, think about that. Look at all the derivatives that are from the Ubuntu
OS.
base, and some of them even
elementary
commercial
OS.
Instance type things.
Yes, Zorin and Elementary come to mind that are distributions
Pop! OS?
that do not shy away from saying you should pay for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like Pop! OS, they put it on the computer themselves, right? I mean, like,
true that.
I mean, so that base is like the derivative for a lot of things that are commercial based. Yep. So I think if they pulled that back, I mean, what kind of outcry would be from that one? Holy cow.
Yeah. Well, we'd have a whole lot more distributions based on Debian, I'll tell you that.
And you could, like, ultimately you can, right? So, like, you could say, well, Ubuntu's just Debian testing with some different snapshotting to it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. You're probably right. But you put it together.
Right. I think if you have knowledgeable people on staff, I could totally see a Debian thing happening.
Well, you could. Yep. And like, it's being done for different Debian derivatives too. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just it's not equivalent to Ubuntu, right? And if the application that you're trying to deploy, whatever that is written in a way that needs that base with the packaging underneath, which is exactly why people go RHEL. If you need those things to be in a certain pattern.
Yep. I hope Rocky's doing it for you.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Alma does state that even though they won't be bug for bug compatible, they will be application compatible. So ABI compatible.
Right.
So bless them. I think that's yeoman's work in itself. So that's good.
Well, I think if you're paying for Alma support and you have a problem, like, hey, this runs in RHEL, but it doesn't run in Alma, what's the deal? I mean, if you're paying them, they have a huge incentive to make it work.
And I think they will. I think they'll go, I think they will as far as filing bugs and submitting patches and stuff to CentOS, which is what Red Hat really wants is things get, pushed into the development phase, and they want the clones, if you will, or the derivatives to be kind of forthcoming with some of the changes that need to be made into the enterprise Linux, distribution that they're providing. And that's a lot of what happens. It does happen in the Ubuntu derivatives. You see things, patches get pushed back to Ubuntu. Some of those things get pushed to Debian. I mean, and so ultimately it's a better ecosystem when everybody's contributing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, speaking of contribution, I think that was one of the biggest things that the conversation around the web had brought up, right? That, Red Hat may have made a different decision. Well, first off, they were very clear that this was not IBM. This was not IBM pulling the strings and saying that we, whatever, maybe, I don't know. But there was this whole entire chain of conversation that went toward, well, if Alma and Rocky and Springdale and Oracle and yada, yada, yada had just contributed more, then maybe things wouldn't have gone this way. And I don't know. Mike McGrath in his follow-up blog post to this is what we're doing with CentOS, said that there was no value in the clones.
Well, he later retracted that, but at least...
Well, it doesn't matter. Again... Where's your PR guy?
Yeah, I know.
Where is that person to tell you, man, that is not a cool thing to say. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Because I agree with CTO Chris Wright, who said, CentOS Linux has truly helped to make RHEL and the supporting communities better.
Mm-hmm.
So we just forgot about that.
Yeah.
Back in 2020 when they made the first change from CentOS Linux to CentOS Stream. I don't like the look, I don't like the smell, and I don't like what has kind of transpired.
I agree with you.
And it really kind of what was so odd, and it doesn't normally happen this way, but what was so odd was that Red Hat employees were playing a whole lot of damage control from this move on the internet against the community.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like, Red Hat's a company making these moves. You know how they're gonna do. It just didn't.
Here's my take on it. Had they announced that it was going to happen, not just this is happening now. If they had announced it's going to happen at some point in the future, and I don't know how much future you need to put to that, but I feel like it would have been better received. If they'd have said, all right, so after, RHEL 9, we're going to stop that. We can't be doing that anymore. It's just not working out for us.
They can't spend 7 more years giving stuff away for free. I mean, they had already given stuff away for free for more than 20 years, Dan. That's why CentOS existed. Now, if they continue giving stuff away for free, then they won't make 15% revenue jumps every single quarter. That's just unfeasible. And so that's why it rubs me the wrong way.
It does have some of that. I get it. But I also understand where they're coming from, too. I mean, they do have to weather the long-term storm just as much as the short one.
Well, 15% revenue quarter over quarter.
Yeah, I would think that'd be great.
Feels like they're weathering pretty good.
It's fairly exponential. I understand.
In 12 months or whatever, they're going to fire a bunch of other employees and then they'll need that money or something. I don't know. It does not feel right.
It doesn't. You're right.
I understand the stream thing. They announced it wrong. They did what you said, and they announced it mid-cycle and were like, hey, I know you've upgraded to CentOS 8 Linux and stuff, but... and so this feels very much the same.
No, it has that same feel.
Like they should have learned their lesson that time, but they didn't. And so, again, in mid-cycle, mid-everything, decided this is how we're going to do it. And
it's got a lot of sting.
Yeah, it did. It did, right? More than what I feel like a change like this should bring.
Red Hat themselves, like the employees that work for Red Hat, they are like extremely great about contributing to a lot of open source projects. Like,
they do a lot of work.
They do. It benefits them. I understand that, but they're great about it. Like, I mean, even as far as contributing patches to other distributions because of things they've solved in, the Red Hat thing universe, if you will. So, to say that they're not open source netizens, that's not fair because they really are. They're just not great citizens. Maybe I don't know how else to put it. Like they're about dollars and they're a corporate entity. So
it seems like you contribute to the things that will eventually contribute back to you, but people that don't pay you lots and lots of money will make some changes that affect you, and we won't give you a whole lot of a runway to figure that out.
So it's unfortunate because they really are big contributors. There's other entities that are also big contributors. We talked about Endless, and they're really pushing the envelope as far as the things they contribute to. So, maybe they get a little more support from folks, and that'd be great. I don't know. It's unfortunate, I guess, is the biggest thing.
Anyway, I'm running more Debian.
Well,
I think that is the my takeaway. It has shied me away. I'm not a Red Hat customer, man. I'm not paying.
We have a couple of machines at work that are, we're gonna have to figure something out because they're CentOS right now, and they've got to go somewhere. So I'm not sure, but there's only a couple of machines. Most everything
CentOS Stream. It'll work. It'll work. Otherwise, at the end of those blog posts, they do say to contact them, and they can help you work something out. I have a feeling that's more of a subscriber thing.
Probably for what we're running, it'd probably work just fine.
I bet it would. I bet it would. And I know there are a lot of folks that are like that. That will just use what works instead of sign up. But Red Hat has a lot of big companies that have signed on. So I don't think the people they've made mad are going to make any kind of difference.
No, I don't think so either.
In the bottom line. But I've been eyeballing Debian for a while, and I'm using a lot more Debian now. That the Proxmox thing that I mentioned last season that we'll come back and talk about a little bit. that constitutes one of the boxes, but the Ubuntu machines, and I had a couple of CentOS machines as well personally.
Yep.
Those are now all Debian.
Ooh.
So,
Interesting. Well, interestingly, we are doing Debian right along with the Gentoo. Next episode,
we are
gonna have some Debian.
It's right. It's right there. It's like right there.
And that's been good too. That's been a good experiment as well.